Okay, we've got this far. Now this video is all about detail. I'm going to slowly walk you through some more of these steps because I want to make sure that you find your one thing. And I'm going to remind you about this. 75% of the people that I've worked with since 1996, their first guess on what their one thing is incorrect. And I'm going to tell you why. Remember what we said on the free videos, is that the subconscious mind is going to try to divert you to either choosing 2 or 3 goals, or it's going to divert you to choosing a one goal that is easier to go after. Now, why is the one thing theory so successful? Why are people rocking their worlds in regards to God work or money or relationships or their health? Why is it? Because they're going after finally the one thing they've denied, delayed, and procrastinated for months or years. I'm going to recap a couple people just to make sure that we understand the power and the importance of slowing down, finding that one thing, and then committing 5 days a week, 20 minutes to 2 hours a day for 90 straight days. Angela came to me totally confused. All of her life was unorganized. Her work, her home, etc. It makes sense that her one thing that she thought right off the top would be getting organized. If she could just get organized, everything would fall into place. But after going through this process that I'm going to slow you down and take you through part of it again, she found her one thing was a lack of income. But then we have the opposite. Dan came to me wanting to build his income, build his business. After going through this one thing process, he found it was an addiction to alcohol. Now, both of these people have rocketed. Angela, I worked with Angela years ago. Angela continues to update me on her increases of income. Every couple years, she gets another dramatic increase. Why is that? Because she's continued to do the work 5 days a week for 90 days ever since our first time working together. Dan is rocking in business. Why? Because he took care of that one thing that was holding him back, his addiction to alcohol. Then we have another client that I mentioned briefly who came to me because of her battle with anxiety, depression, etc. If you remember that on my free videos, right? And we found out it was forgiveness of others. It was this huge resentment that she had held against a family member for 30 years. And that tore her down emotionally, so much so that it created anxiety, depression, fibromyalgia, and chronic fatigue. Once she went after her one thing, everything started to shift. Her sleep increased. Her dependency on anti-anxiety drugs and sleep medicine decreased dramatically. Depression decreased dramatically. And how is this? Because these people are getting serious and they're going after the one thing they've denied, delayed, procrastinated for years. Now, I say it's tricky. I'm going to repeat this part again. Your first time through the process that you did just a few minutes ago, where you found your one thing by flipping the pages back and forth and narrowing it down, and then you got into your subcategories, the subconscious mind is going to try to pull you away from it, because once you find your one thing, in the beginning, the work is uncomfortable. I'm not even going to fool around and tell you that it's just a walk in the park. It's not. And that's one of my concerns with all the books and CDs out there saying you can manifest life effortlessly. Yes, people do win the lottery. Yes, people do wake up with a spontaneous healing of cancer. Yes, those things happen. But they're very rare. For most of us, it's a commitment to work. If it's your body, you and I both know you're going to have to make dramatic changes in what you eat, what you do, how you exercise, who you hang out with, in order to get the body you've always wanted. If it's finances, you're going to have to do the same thing. You're going to have to do things that at first are uncomfortable. Budgeting, right? Maybe looking at ways to increase your income. Looking at ways to decrease your debt. See, in the beginning, it's going to be just like riding a bike or swimming. The first time you get thrown into water, you're scared to death. You don't want to do that. You don't want to go there. And then years later, maybe for you, being in a pool or in the ocean is like unbelievable bliss. It's the same thing with the one thing theory. Do you remember when you first rode a bike? For most of us, it's terror. Thank God mom or dad or someone was there to hold on to it, right? We get off of those training wheels and into the bike itself, and we're terrified. Okay, listen to this. Before the one thing theory, let's look at life as training wheels. We're safe, we're comfortable, we're doing things that are easy, okay? And we're getting the end result of life that isn't that great. The training wheels are off now, gang. We're ready to ride the bike by ourselves. Now, I'm mom or dad. Go ahead and put any kind of name you want on me. I'm giving you a system to follow to learn how to ride the bike by yourself. Now, years later, you go, oh my God, getting on a bike? Effortless. It's joyful. But it wasn't in the beginning. It's the same thing with the one thing theory. In the beginning, when you've got to attack the money issue, the God issue, the forgiveness of others, the forgiveness of self, if you have to attack going after a new job or learning how to budget, in the beginning, it's not going to be comfortable. But just like brushing your teeth, riding a bike, swimming, if you give this program 90 days, whatever is uncomfortable in the beginning will become comfortable. And not only will it become comfortable, it will lead you to the life that you desire and you deserve. But you've got to do things differently. So grab your paper. If you look in your manual, we actually gave you an extra sheet that you can use. You might want to copy it. Go back in, print out multiple copies to keep going over your one thing to make sure you have it. Now, if you remember, I also said sometimes people will come to me and say, David, I think I have a new one thing. I've been working for 3 weeks on my health, but this thing about forgiveness keeps coming up. I have this amazing resentment against a former husband or a former wife. And the answer to how do you know if the new one thing is the real one thing? If the new one is more difficult, more challenging, then the answer is yes. If the new one that pops up is easier, well, then there's your subconscious trying to bring you back to the comfort zone. Does that make sense? So we want to be uncomfortable. And I know that this goal setting procedure, this goal achievement procedure is probably radically different than anything you've done in your whole life. But look at the title. The title is the one thing that will radically change your life forever. We have to do radically different things in life to get a radically different end result. I could go on and give you more examples, but instead, I think you understand the power of this. I'm going to tell you to grab a blank sheet of paper or the one that we provided in your manual, okay, that you printed out from the website. And I'm going to take you through some other categories. Do you remember on the free training video I took you through the health category? Like if health is your one thing, how to break it down to the subcategories, and then how to set your goals 5 days a week for 90 days to go after it. I think the example I gave was with sleep. So let's go on to another one. Let's say that your one thing is relationship with self. So you'd write down relationship with self, and then underneath it, you'd write down all the subcategories that has to do with the relationship with yourself that you have denied or delayed, procrastinated, taken care of for years. Now, the number one thing that people will find is a forgiveness of self for something that you've done on a regular basis, maybe forgiveness of self for your addiction to alcohol, nicotine, food, prescription drugs, street drugs. Maybe there's an addiction to gambling, to sex. Maybe there's an addiction that you have to forgive yourself finally in order to move forward in life. Maybe you had an affair on a partner. Maybe you cheated. Maybe they know, maybe they don't know. It doesn't matter, right? Maybe that forgiveness of self has to do with forgiving yourself for doing something to a former partner or multiple former partners, like having affairs. Did you get abusive in life to your children, maybe to your parents, to a former partner or lover? Maybe you have to forgive yourself for the abuse you gave to others. Now, this stuff is intense. When you look at relationship to self and you want to forgive yourself for something you've done, maybe you haven't lived up to your potential. Maybe you know that throughout your life you've kind of skated. And underneath this skating is this feeling of I'm not living up to my potential, to using the gifts God has given me to make a bigger difference in this world. So what do we do with all this stuff with self? Well, one of the exercises, let's say you circled one of those things, and it's that you haven't forgiven yourself for things you've done in the past to one person or multiple people. You know, on my XM radio show recently, we had one of my recovering addicts and alcoholics, Lisa, on the show. And after she got clean and she's moving forward and she got a brand new job in life and everything, she has a lot of guilt about what she stole from family members in order to keep her drug habit going. She's got a lot of work to do. Do you feel guilty? Do you feel not worthy of God's love? Or not worthy of love from a partner? Or not worthy to love yourself? See, these are all subcategories that I hope that if your one thing is relationship with self, that you're writing down. Like, write all this stuff down. Now, you can always go back and rewatch this video, right? And I hope that you do. But write down all these things, all these ideas I'm giving you, because one of these could be your one thing. Once you clear it up, and what do? You might write a letter of forgiveness to yourself for 90 straight days. Or maybe you do it for 14 straight days and see how you feel. So every day when you get up, your one thing practice would be to write a letter that I forgive myself for, and list everything you need to forgive yourself for, right? That could be your exercise. And after 14, 21, 30, or maybe 90 days, when you're writing, there's no more emotion attached. You're feeling clear. And your one thing would be taken care of. And how would we know it's taken care of? It's how we start treating ourselves. If we treat ourselves with love and respect, we know the exercise worked. What if it's about guilt for someone else, that you've done something to someone else? Then the letter could easily start with writing letters to that person, day after day after day, saying, I am so sorry, please forgive me for, and then being highly explicit for what you did, in order to ask them for forgiveness. You would end the letter with, I hope you'll find space in your heart to forgive me for what I did over and over and over again to you. You don't ever have to give these letters to anyone. There's no need for that. In our work, we found people come to closure with their anger at God. 30 years of anger at God, we found that they came to closure without ever having to send a letter to God. Just them doing it by themselves. Now, if you're concerned about privacy with these letters, what I'd recommend is there's a ceremony we call the burning bowl ceremony. Get a bowl that's non-flammable, glass, metal, something. And when you're done with the writing, burn the letters. Right away, burn them. That's kind of a spiritual act too, where we release that anger, that guilt, that forgiveness to God to help us along the path. And that can work perfectly. So you see, when you're working on that relationship with self, there's many different angles you can go with, and you'll find other subcategories too. I want you to look deeply. I want you to work. Now, sometimes people will go, oh, I wrote a letter to myself to forgive myself for abusing people in the past. But then all of a sudden they'll bring it in and there's no specifics. There isn't who, there isn't when, there isn't how many times. I mean, it has to be highly detailed to be effective. And rarely, if it's something that's bothering us, will one letter work. Now, I recently worked with a gentleman who had a love addiction thing going on. That he was leaving his partner and having affairs, emotional affairs with all these other women. It took him 45 straight days of writing these type of letters to see the breakthrough, the release. The guilt was gone. The shame was gone. And those are some of the things that happens in our relationship with ourselves. We don't feel worthy. We feel guilty. We feel shameful. But we don't do anything about it. In my work, this relationship with self has been one of the biggest things that's held people back from maximizing their potential, from being free of addiction, from feeling the inner peace that they want every day they wake up. I want the same for you. So those are some ideas about relationship with self. Let's look at another category. What about spirituality? What about spirituality? Could spirituality be your one thing? What would all the subcategories be under spirituality? Well, let's take a look at a few. It might be waking up every day and reading for 30 minutes some spiritual words from Neil Donald Walsh or Wayne Dyer, Mother Teresa, Marianne Williamson. It might be committing 30 minutes first thing every morning on your spiritual path. That could be one of the subcategories. Another one could be joining a religious community. Maybe you haven't been to church or temple and synagogue in years. So you say, okay, I'm going to start doing some research. Every day I'm going to look online, find out what temples or churches are near me, start to do all the research. I'm going to spend 20 minutes to 2 hours a day doing the research. It could be the spiritual practice is all about meditation, learning how to meditate. So you'd set apart time every day and you'd take a course on transcendental meditation. Or you'd buy a CD. Daniel Goleman has amazing CDs out. Lama Surya Das, Wayne Dyer, there's amazing teachers out there. You might get a CD and say, I'm going to practice it a half an hour every morning and a half an hour every night. See, this is the commitment to the spiritual path. I've had some clients that start to write letters to God. It's a journal. Every day they get up and they write a letter to God. It takes them 15, 20 minutes in the morning. You know, dear God, thank you for this. Thank you for that. Please forgive me for this. Please forgive me for that. See, this is all about the spiritual path. Another subcategory could be volunteering. Maybe you decide that you're going to spend 1 or 2 hours a week in a homeless shelter. Or maybe you're going to be working with addicts or alcoholics. Maybe you're going to be working with children. Maybe you're going to join Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Maybe that's one of your subcategories. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, in other words, when you find the one thing category, you've got to write as many subcategories as possible. Then, when you have your subcategories down, you want to circle the one that would have the biggest impact, that would push you out of your comfort zone, that would make you do things that are uncomfortable. And I'll tell you, meditation is one of those things. Meditation pushes us all out of our comfort zone. We are so used to moving, acting, moving, acting, moving, acting. That's what the whole USA is about, isn't it? I mean, it's all about, to become more successful means that you have to be doing things. One of my best friends, Lee Witt, who was a former client of mine out of Seattle, and Google him because he has an incredible amount of books out, really powerful books. But I remember he said to me one of the most powerful techniques he ever learned in life was meditation, and how you could achieve so much by doing nothing. Oxymoronic, isn't it? You can achieve so much by doing nothing. There's a wonderful book called Transcendence out. Norman Rosenthal, someone I've interviewed on my shows multiple times, talking about the benefits of meditation, specifically transcendental meditation. So that might be it. And I promise you, like sometimes people will come to me and go, David, I'm so excited because my one thing is my spiritual path. I've neglected it for years and I'm really jazzed because I'm going to learn meditation. It's going to be bliss. I'm going to go into nirvana. And I will tell you a story. It took me 365 days in a row of listening to an audio cassette on meditation because I'm highly type A. It took me a full year before I could meditate on my own. And then years later, I went ahead and went through the TM course. And finally, meditation has become a part of my life for 20 plus years. Every day. I wouldn't miss it. But it took a long time to get it right. It might be the same to you. What other subcategories touch you in your heart regarding your spiritual path that could be your one thing? I'm going to remind you, choose the one that'll be consisting of the most risk, the most work. To do 20 minutes to 2 hours a day for 90 straight days. That's where the benefit is. Let's go to another category. Let's see here. How about career? What if career is your one thing? Like it was with Angela, had that combination thing going on, money and career. But let's say it's career for you. What are all the subcategories that could fall underneath career? Well, it might be doing better work at the job you're in. I recently worked with a client that kept saying about how she had to move this career, leave this career, do all these different things. And her one thing had nothing to do with leaving the career she was in. Her one thing was to apply herself more every day, to ask for extra work, to tell them that she would be available on weekends. That was the one thing that radically changed her life. Why is that? Because I used the word skated. For years she had skated. She had done the minimal possible to get ahead in her career. Now, here's the funniest thing in the world. After committing 90 straight days in the current job she had, doing the most she could, working hard, working longer, being of greater service, you can probably guess the next thing that happened. One of her customers for the job that she worked at came in and offered her the most amazing position ever. Why? Because this customer saw a change in her attitude, a change in her devotion to her current position, and that customer wanted her on her team. Do you see what I'm saying? So career could be working harder where you are. Maybe your career is shifting. Maybe it means that you've got to get your resumes together. Maybe it means you have to go out and ask for letters of recommendation. When Angela committed to doubling her income, she spent 2 hours a day after her full-time job getting her resume together, asking friends and family members if they knew of any positions that she could be suited for, putting all of her resumes up on the different internet sites, looking for work, and it worked. Is that what you have to do? Is that part of your career subcategories? Break it down. Break it down into maybe under career 10, 15, 20 subcategories. Then choose the one that will be most uncomfortable to do. If it's scheduling time Monday through Friday to redo your resume, get it posted on the internet, ask other people for ideas, send your resume out to people that you knew from high school, college, just saying, hey, if you know of anyone looking for someone with my qualifications, that's going to take hours. The commitment, though, will open up a new pathway that you've been looking for. Now again, with all these subcategories I'm going through, I'm just throwing out a few ideas to get your wheels turning. You might find 6, 7, 8 different ones. I'm not even mentioning about career. And then you want to circle the one that's going to be the most challenging, because that's where the greatest reward is. And let me stop and talk about that for a second. Whatever task you go after that push you the most out of your comfort zone is where the greatest rewards in life happen. So if you say to yourself, like let's say you go, I'm going to take part of David's one thing theory. It's not going to work. If you go, I don't want to commit 5 days a week to this career thing. I'm going to commit 2 days because I'm going to do baby steps. It's nonsense. It's hogwash. I'm going to tell you right now you're going to fail. And I'm an optimistic, positive person. You know what I'm saying? But it's not going to work, because your rewards in life will be based totally 100% on your effort. So if you want to put in a couple days a week to the one thing theory, just imagine this. Instead of breakthroughs coming in 30, 60, 90 days, they'll probably come in 2 or 3 years. It's like the person who says, I need to lose 100 pounds, and I'm going to take David's theory, but I'm going to break it down in 2 days a week. I'm going to start walking 2 days a week for 20 minutes. Well, 6 years from now, they might lose 100 pounds. But if you look at one of the clients I had, she dedicated 1 hour a day, 6 days a week. She lived in Maine. In the wintertime, the weather was horrendous. Squalls and rain and snow. 6 days a week, she walked. Initially, she started walking for 1 hour a day. Then at about 3 months, she started walking, jogging. At the 6-month mark, she was running an hour a day. And at the end of a year, she lost over 100 pounds. But that was from the commitment to the one thing theory process, what we're sharing with you. Please, don't try to find a shortcut. You know, that's like, well, that human nature stuff, right? We want the most out of life with minimal effort. Do not look for a shortcut. Write that down in your paper right now. I choose to do the full one thing theory. I release all shortcuts. Write that down. I release all shortcuts. You can't be sober 2 days a week and expect your life to change if alcohol is a problem, or smoking is a problem, or food's a problem, or drugs are a problem. It's not going to work. You're going to bleed yourself out. And at the end of 90 days, you're going to go, this doesn't work. No, it won't work. I'm going to remind you, you've got to put a full commitment into the process. Now, but I want to remind you this too. If you live to 80 years of age, and you look back right now and you go, I am so glad I followed this guy's advice and committed 90 straight days to my one thing. Because you've got all of this time left to enjoy sobriety, your new body, money, the relationship you've always wanted, the relationship with God you've always wanted. Do you see what I'm saying? Please, stay strong. Go against the grain of the subconscious that's trying to pull you into the easy part of life. You're not going to have to worry too. Whatever is hard in the beginning, I keep repeating these principles because they're important. Whatever is tough, trying to learn how to meditate or learning how to budget or whatever it might be, whatever's tough in the beginning will become habit. Brushing your teeth, riding a bike, swimming, it's all habit, right? But it started off being uncomfortable, and that's what we want here. Let's go to another category. How about finances? So we say, okay, what are all the subcategories underneath the word finances in my life? Write this down. My debt, my income, daily expenses, investments. What else would be a subcategory in your life? What about beliefs about money? That's a huge one. Many people with a lot of talent struggle with money because of their beliefs that it's hard to hang on to money. In this economy, it's hard to make money. Money, as soon as I make it, it's gone. Money is the root of all evil. Totally misquoted from the Bible. The love of money is the root of all evil, is what the Bible says. Not money is the root of all evil. The love of money, the adoration, the worship of money is the problem. When you put money above everything else, yep, that's going to be stressful. Absolutely. So what is your thing in regards to money? Look at those subcategories. Are there others? Are there other things? Do you not feel worthy of money? What would it be around finances that could be your one thing? Break it down to all these subcategories. I'll also say this again. As we move through this and your mind processes, you may choose to go through that one thing theory, flipping back and forth on our previous video 4, 5, 6 times to make sure you have it. You may watch this video over and over and over again to make sure you have the idea of the power of subcategories. So let's say that underneath finances, a subcategory is going to be expenses. So what you might say is for the next 14 days, I'm going to write down, chart out everything I buy, everything I spend money on for 14 days to get an idea of what my expenses are. Now, I'm going to give you a couple mind-blowing examples. Two different clients. One was a woman with a family of 3, and the other one was a young girl who's just working for the past 4 years in her first job after her initial break out of college. So the woman with the children came to me, and there was all kinds of struggle in her family. We found her one thing was management of money. It created all kinds of stress between her and her husband. They were constantly bickering about the amount of money going out the door. And she came in saying, when we found it was her one thing, she said, David, I know it's not me. I know it's my husband's, his belief system around money. So we had her do 21 days of writing down everything she spent for 21 days. And I saw her every 7 days. Every time she came in, she'd be shaking her head. She goes, I can't believe this is me. I can't believe the struggle with money is about me. She would justify going out to a store, having to go into a store with her children and buying everyone a treat. Then 3 hours later, going into another store and buying everyone water. Then 3 hours later, going into someplace else. Do you see what I'm saying? Hundreds of dollars a week that absolutely blew her mind were being wasted, and she didn't even know it. So if finances, that could be maybe one of your things. The other story I was going to give you about a young woman that I've worked with now for several months who didn't believe spending was her problem until she started calculating. And she looked on paper that she was eating out 3 meals a day. Do you know how expensive that is? Especially for someone that doesn't know that they're making enough money. She couldn't save money. She put no money away on a weekly basis. After a couple months of working together, she was putting away $600 a month for the first time in her life. She has a savings account, $600 a month that she never saved a penny the year she had been working up till now, until she found her one thing, started writing her exercises out and changing her spending habits. This is how powerful the one thing theory is. This is life-changing. Another client I worked with on her finances that had to do with taxes. She came in wanting to work on she wanted to work on a relationship. And we found out that there was this incredible stressor in her life. And the fact was that for a number of years, she had never, ever filed taxes. And it was in the back of her mind, of course. It tore her down. It weakened her. It made her feel guilty and shameful and stressed. So what's her one thing? Her one thing was to get an advisor and with her partner every weekend to spend multiple hours a day pulling the back year taxes together, the expenses. It was a lot of work. It started out just being on weekends, and then she realized it was going to take her ever to get it done. She started working after work on clearing up the past 3 to 4 years of taxes. Could that be for you? Finding your subcategory is crucial. When you write them down, circle the one that is the most difficult, damaging. What is it for you? What's the one thing in that subcategory that needs to be approached now and dealt with 5 days a week that you've denied, delayed, and procrastinated? Now, sometimes people will find this amazing breakthrough. They'll do this expenses thing, let's say. They'll work on it for 30 days. They'll see how much money they're spending, blowing, wasting. And within 60 days, they've got themselves putting money away, bringing their sandwiches for lunch, bringing something for breakfast with them, doing all kinds of different things, and they're done. They may even be done before the 90-day program. And so what do you do next? You find the next one thing, which I'll talk about in a moment. So what about the last category that we haven't covered is relationship with others? What if that is your one thing? Let's look at the subcategories that could fall underneath relationship with others. What might they be to you? Do you need to make amends with people? Are there people in your life that you have to go and say, you know, I've been doing this personal growth work, and I have to tell you, I am so sorry for A, B, C, D, and E. Sometimes we do go out and involve other people. But here's the kicker. We can't involve other people if we expect them to like us, to forgive us. If you go with that expectation, your most difficult thing, maybe the thing you've denied, delayed, procrastinated, is going to someone and saying, I am sorry. And you do all this writing. Maybe this is part of your thing with relationship with others. Maybe you do all this writing for 15, 30, 60, 90 days, and you're very clear and you're very grounded. And then you want to approach this person. If you approach them with the hope that they're going to be joyful and cheery, hearing your voice, and saying, oh, don't worry about it, David, that's fine, that was years ago, it's no big deal, you could be setting yourself up for failure, because many people will not forgive you. Many people will not choose to be a friend. Many people will not even want to talk to you, and that's okay. See, the thing we've denied, delayed, procrastinated might be hard, but the fact that you made the move, the fact that you first cleared up for 15, 30, 60 days of writing every day about this whole thing that you've done to hurt people in the past, that is your reward. Now, the next most difficult thing for you may be to go and ask them for forgiveness, and they may say no, and they may say yes. It doesn't matter. That's the most difficult thing to do, which means you are rocking. Regardless of what they say, you are doing the right thing. It might be a spanking. You might feel hurt. You may feel dejected. You might feel rejected. That's okay, because you will walk away after a few days of feeling hurt, rejected, dejected, and you will bounce back, spring back. You will be the person you've always wanted to be. At least you took care of your side of the equation. Relationship with others can be so many different things. It could be forgiving someone else for hurting you. It's not all about you, right? Excuse me. It might be forgiving someone else for what they did. So you would write, no matter how horrendous the act, you would write over and over and over again every day, I forgive you for doing X to me. You might have 1, 2, 3, 4 people that you've got to do this with. You might also write about what was my role in that relationship. What was my role in that friendship with others? So you do a number of days of writing, 7, 14, 30 days, saying, oh my Lord, I'm seeing my role. I've worked with a lot of abused women that at first will come to me and say, I was the victim, I never did anything wrong, which is rarely the case. The victim heals when they quit being a victim. So all of a sudden they're writing these letters of forgiveness to someone that abused them, and they start to see their role. What was their number one role? Maybe it was staying after the first abusive experience. Maybe that was their role. Maybe their role was staying after the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. Maybe that was their role. And they have to own that role in order to heal. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you understand now the power of the subcategories underneath the categories? This is the detail that needs to be followed in order for you to find your one thing and work through it. It's so important that I wanted to take this video and to break it down in more detail. I don't want any questions in your mind. I want you to look through these different categories and then the subcategories, and I want you to find the one thing. I want you to attack it. If you clear it up, let's say you're doing something in regards to your weight, and you go, oh my gosh, in 60 days, I'm in the gym 5 days a week, I'm working out for an hour a day, I haven't done that in years, and you feel confident. Then you say, underneath health, what's my next one thing? And you go, let's go, baby, it's diet. So you go through your house, and you write down that on these days, at these hours, I'm going to clear out all the crap, all the garbage, I'm going to donate it to charity. I'm going to bring it to a food bank. Anything that's not open. Anything that is open, I'm just going to trust and throw it out. Is that your next one thing? Do you see what I'm saying? There's always going to be another one thing in the process. If you work through your health issues or your financial issues or your career issues, and you're done with that category and you see how life is so much more joyful, then go back to the exercise and see what category is my next one thing lying in. If you take care of finances, maybe the next one that is the priority is health. Or maybe it's relationship with others. Or maybe it's your spiritual path. You can continue to use this same system over and over for the rest of your life. And the small amount of money you paid to continue to have something to resort back to is so worth it. You know, the one thing theory is what separates all of our coaching work. And in 1996, when I created this system, I also started certifying people to become certified life coaches. Since 1996 to today, every one of them who's gone through the course says the one thing that separates them from all the other goal-setting, goal-achieving programs they've seen ever since becoming a certified life coach is this. This is what separates their work. This is why all their clients are receiving such great end results. Now, We've taken this one process out of that full certification course and we're giving it to you. If all of these coaches from around the world that I have certified have stuck with the one thing and seen such great success with their clients, aren't you ready to do the same thing? Aren't you ready to commit for 90 straight days, 20 minutes to 2 hours a day? Aren't you ready to finally get the life you want, the money you want, the body you want, the relationship you want, the relationship with God that you want, or your spiritual path? Aren't you ready? I cannot repeat this enough. Finding your one thing is tricky at first. The subconscious mind is going to want to pull you into a comfort zone. Let's do something a little easier than forgiving mom or dad for that. I mean, I've worked with some very difficult cases of incest where a woman meant, well, several, not just one, but one comes to mind where this woman had to work through her anger at her father for years and years of sexual abuse. That was her one thing. I've worked with another woman that had such anger at God for the loss of her younger sister that it totally affected every area of her life. That was her one thing. When these people attacked the one thing, everything shifted, everything changed, and the same will happen to you. Now, your one thing may be not as dramatic as those two last examples, but it is dramatic to you. Whatever you've denied, delayed, and procrastinated is crucial to now, once and for all, to take care of. As I've shared with you success stories of clients and celebrities who do the one thing theory, I think we've really grounded the fact that this works. I know it'll work for you. I know if you dedicate, I'll say it again, 5 days a week or more for 90 straight days, 20 minutes to 2 hours a day, and you don't let yourself off the hook, you stay strong. Now, what if you stumble? What if you fall? What if you go into this 1 or 2 days and you go back to drinking or spending money, or you go back to resentments, or you go back to being lazy at work, or you miss your workouts? That's okay. Extend the period of time, get back on the horse, and go for it. There is nothing that will change your life quicker than this system. There's nothing that you could do in 90 days if you follow this that could radically change your life. The one thing theory states that at any given time, there's only one thing that we've denied, delayed, procrastinated. And if we put 100% effort into that one thing, within 90 days or shortly thereafter, our total life will change. Our life will radically change. That's the definition. It will happen for you. I want to hear your success stories. I want to know that you're following the one thing, not the one thing modified to fit your needs. I want to remind you of that. The one thing as we've stated it here, okay? If you do that, I promise life will radically change. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't have challenges in the future. It doesn't mean that there won't be another one thing. There's not going to be like instant nirvana and you float into heaven and everything's taken care of, but your life will radically change. Please visit talkdavid.com for updates into other programs that we offer. If you ever choose and you say, wow, this one thing theory is so powerful, I want to help train others to do it, look at lifecoachuniverse.com. Maybe it's time for you to become a certified life coach and join the hundreds of people from around the world that have joined us on that journey to get even more information how to change your life. I'm excited to hear from you. Talkdavid.com is the website to visit for anything else that you might need. And don't forget, with all the videos you've just watched and all the information you've written down through this course, go back over it again and again and again so that it settles not just intellectually but into your heart. That mind-heart integration is what will motivate you to continue doing the work even on those days that you don't want to. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being with us with this program. Share the power with the world. As you shift and change, share your shift, your change, your power, your energy, your love with the world. And yes, one person at a time can have a huge difference. I'm David Essel. Have the most amazing day.